Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to break down the absolutely hilarious, chaotic, and honestly, truly fascinating storytelling of regional digital comedy. If you've ever found yourself wondering how grassroots creators are capturing millions of views with literally nothing more than a smartphone, a couple of fake guns, and an open field, well, you're in the exact right place. We're looking specifically at the viral hit Rangdar 2. Now, this isn't just your standard slapstick comedy. It's actually a brilliant window into the raw hustle of rural creators, perfectly blending this over-the-top fiction with their everyday reality. So let's just dive right into it. To make sense of all this fast-paced chaos, we've broken our analysis down into 4 parts: the world of Rangdar 2, Cooker Gang's weird robbery, the drama of police and politicians, and finally, the creators behind the scenes. All right, part 1, the world of Rangdar 2. Tiny debts, massive terror. So in this high-stakes, slapstick universe, extreme violence is just casually threatened over incredibly petty grievances. I mean, think about it. In your standard Hollywood action movie, the stakes are usually, what? Millions of dollars, saving the entire planet. But here, the whole chaotic conflict kicks off over a mere 100 rupees. That's less than a cup of coffee at most cafes. But in this universe, oh, it's the absolute catalyst for warfare. The local boss is furious, screaming about how he burned 10 liters of petrol just trying to track down a guy who owes him this tiny amount of money. It perfectly highlights the absurd, exaggerated nature of the local extortionists they're parodying here. These characters literally sit around debating how to establish terror in the village just to collect this tiny sum. They seriously argue whether forgiving a 100-rupee debt is going to ruin their fearsome reputation. One guy makes the point that if they don't beat the debtor up, their reign of terror is just going to end and people won't be afraid of them anymore. It instantly sets a thick, satirical tone for the whole story. They aren't criminal masterminds. Actually, scratch that. They aren't even competent criminals. They're just small-town bullies completely obsessed with their own minor reputations. Moving right along to part 2. Cooker Gang's weird robbery. Are they fearsome bandits or just hungry victims? Let's define the Cooker Gang. Picture this: a gang of robbers storming into homes late at night with loaded guns, fierce attitudes, screaming for gold and jewels. Pretty standard, right? But the hilarious twist here is that they quickly discover their victims are actually way poorer than they are. When a victim cries out that they only have mud walls and absolutely zero jewelry, the whole illusion of this terrifying home invasion just completely shatters. And this brilliantly illustrates the core satire of the scene. The fierce robbers just throw their hands up and completely give up on finding jewelry. But instead of leaving empty-handed, they casually pivot their demands. They force the terrified victims to start chopping onions and chilies to cook them a nice meal of flatbread and vegetables. The gang's leader even makes the very practical argument that they can't possibly rob on an empty stomach. It really forces us to ask, can crime villains actually be this helpless and hungry? Instead of cold-blooded thieves, we're looking at guys who are basically just trying to score a free dinner. By making the villains this pathetic, the creators strip away all the typical tension and replace it with this unique, highly localized flavor of comedy that audiences absolutely eat up. Let's dive into part 3, the drama of police and politicians. Police scared of bullets and ministers making compromises. Now, in standard cinema, we expect heroic, fearless cops diving headfirst into the line of fire. But the reality of Rangdar 2 is, well, quite different. The police arrive at the scene of the robbery, and their first instinct is to immediately start looking for places to hide. When a shootout actually begins, they're complaining that they're running out of breath and that their fingers are literally too tired from panting to pull the trigger. These police characters openly and humorously admit their immense fear of the dacoits, totally shattering any illusion of bravery. One of the officers literally begs the criminals not to shoot, confessing that they are absolutely terrified of getting hurt. It's such a hilarious critique of authority figures. It shows them as just normal, easily frightened guys in ill-fitting uniforms who really just want to collect their monthly paycheck without doing any actual dangerous work. And then the corrupt politician or Manthri G finally arrives on the scene. But instead of enforcing justice, he negotiates this bizarre, bloodless compromise. He realizes a shootout is terrible for his PR image, so he proposes a middle path. His grand political solution: drop a couple of fake dead bodies so the police look like they did their jobs, let the robbers go completely free, and then everyone can just sit down together and have breakfast. I mean, it is a biting, laugh-out-loud commentary on political corruption and bureaucratic laziness. Then, bam, we get this brilliant meta shift where the fourth wall just shatters mid-sentence. Right in the middle of a tense standoff with the corrupt minister, a character suddenly stops, turns directly to the camera, and says, "So, hello guys, how did you like the video?" It instantly pulls us from the fictional, chaotic shootout right back into a grounded, real-life vlog. It's a super jarring but incredible transition that brings us perfectly to our final topic. Part 4, the creators behind the scenes. Going from dacoit straight to regional vlogger. So the terrifying gangsters instantly drop their personas to become these super polite vloggers. They're standing right there in a local bamboo grove and some recently harvested wheat fields. There are no fancy studio lights, no massive sets. It's just raw, rural India. This stark contrast highlights their grassroots production environment. They are quite literally using their immediate surroundings to build a digital empire, one single video at a time. Their call-to-action process is a raw, direct, and highly effective three-step hustle. They don't bother waiting for a polished end screen. They break character, walk you through their actual neighborhood, literally pointing out the local sugarcane crops, and aggressively push the audience to subscribe to their brand new secondary channels. It's an entrepreneurial spirit that is just impossible to ignore. They know exactly how to leverage the massive attention from their comedy skit to build out a wider audience network. What's really remarkable here is their brutal honesty. They show this incredible vulnerability, openly admitting their lack of polish on camera. One of the creators literally says, "I don't know how to speak well yet." But in the very next breath, he promises his audience dedicated daily uploads. He's figuring it out in real time, in front of millions of people, and just humbly asking for their patience and support while he does it. Which brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. Is this unpolished, completely authentic connection with the audience exactly what makes regional digital content so incredibly powerful? We've watched them go from fighting over a 100 rupee debt to humbly asking for a like and subscribe in a wheat field. They aren't hiding behind Hollywood production values because their struggle and their reality literally is the content. And honestly, perhaps that genuine, unfiltered hustle is exactly why audiences keep coming back for more. Think about that the next time you fire up a polished, high-budget show. Sometimes the real magic is just a few friends with a smartphone and a bamboo grove. Thanks so much for joining me, and keep exploring.